Well, good morning, colleagues, and welcome to the Global Sustainable Aviation Forum at COP28. It's a pleasure to have you all with us, and very happy that this is taking place on Transport Day, and grateful for the support of the COP28 presidency with whom we've been working to prepare for the next 4 hours of discussion. And although we do have a decent chunk of time, we actually have a very packed agenda with a lot of information to be provided. So keeping on schedule is going to be important, and I don't want to fall into the normal COP trap of getting behind time, but it looks like we haven't achieved that so far. I think the level of interest in this discussion, certainly the number of people that wanted to speak today, is a sign that not only is the industry really making progress in our decarbonisation strategy, but also that other sectors are starting to take an interest as well, and that's a good thing. I'm going to swap the order around a little bit because we've got one of our first speakers who needs to head off very quickly to go to another event. This is very normal during COP. And so I'm going to ask first Jane Hoope to say a couple of words before you need to leave. We have a slight microphone issue today as well, so I'm a microphone bearer. Please.
Thank you, Haldane. So a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invite. Apologies for leaving you very quickly. We have a series of events today, it's Transport Day, and we want to bring the good news from ICAO to that meeting. And it's Transport Day, the day that we are going to say, we did it. And that's how I want to start my address here. We did it. 1 year ago, we had decided on align the aviation sector with the Paris Agreement temperature goals. And we decided to have a long-term goal for the net zero 2050, just 1 year ago. Preparing to that, we have done so many studies. You know, aviation only takes decisions in ICAO after we do a lot of studies. And the studies show clean energy would be the one that would be really providing the best shot for us in addressing emissions. So the big chunk will come from cleaner energy. And then we focused this year really all of our efforts to put forward a framework so that that could happen. And in just a few days before this meeting, we have had a big breakthrough where we got the agreement on a framework. And we have an aspirational goal for the short term, 2030. We will be reducing 5% on the CO2 just from clean energy. So we will continue to do the other measures, technology, operations, but from clean energy, 5% reductions of CO2 by 2030 is our commitment. So what we have to say is this framework, it allows the states in the different circumstances, not all the states are starting from the same point, to catch up, to receive the capacity building, the means of implementation they need to get there. And we have taken very important decisions in various areas. I'll just highlight something. The regulatory framework is very important. We have been working on that 15 years. We have a lot of good work done through CORSIA, which is our global offsetting scheme. And sustainability of those fuels is paramount. We go nowhere with sustainable fuels without very clear sustainability criteria. And the way we chose, and I'm saying criteria, because, you know, we, in that framework, we are agnostic on methods, on processes, on feedstocks. The way we chose to do that, to make a real level playing field globally, is to give the criteria. You pass, you fail. You pass your sustainable aviation fuel. You fail, you're not. So that was a big decision of the meeting, to use that basis, this criteria, throughout the world. And that will allow each state in their own circumstances to reach that out. So you have the framework, guys. And when I see this audience here today, Haldane, you are the doers. So go for it. So what do we need? We need smart cooperation. It's unprecedented cooperation, but smart cooperation. I'm very concerned with the very little and resources we have. A myriad of new initiatives every single day that goes to different directions, and most of them are repeating things that are already done. Don't do that. Let's concentrate in the main initiatives, put all our efforts into those initiatives. Under Corsi, we already have an amazing MRV. When you're talking about monitoring, reporting, etc. on aviation, build upon it. So let's do smart cooperation. Let's choose the programs that are really to stay, that are really delivering. And I invite you all to be part of GSAF. In ICAO, we had GSAF before we had the framework because we want to include industry in our partnerships, and it's working beautifully. Second thing, we have done so much. We are terrible in explaining it and announcing it to the world. Please, let's do more outreach. Let's talk about what aviation is doing. Let's make the world understand where we are, because we are so advanced, and sometimes I hear people talking about things that we have resolved 15 years ago. The third thing, we have the framework. We have the direction. And when we talked to the financial organizations before, they said, we need consistency, we need predictability, we need a framework. We did it. Now, bring us the money. We need the money to do it. So help us get the money. And with that, Alden, I think you will have a very busy agenda. We will be having a series of meetings today exactly to pass the word and to make sure the world understands that aviation clean energy transition is on. Thank you, Alden.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jane. Good luck with the rest of your day. Yeah, bring us the money. Key message there, which I would echo as well. Before we get into the detail of the session today, I just wanted to go over some of the thoughts that we have within the aviation community of how we get to the decarbonisation pathway. Before that, I wanted to say a special thanks to the organisers of the event and also those that have supported us to make today possible, and you can see them on screen now. Aviation connects the world. Before COVID, over 4.5 billion passengers were carried across the air transportation system, which includes airlines, airports, air traffic control providers, the makers of aircraft and engines, and the whole supply chain. Perhaps most important on this slide is the last statistic, the connectivity provided by the nearly 50,000 routes served. This is not only the global hubs that we all know about, it's small community airports, small island states, landlocked countries. It's a connection to the world with tourism and jobs, with education and health. And those statistics, the tourism we support through flying, the trade that we transport, help support some 87.7 million jobs globally. This is set to continue with our analysis showing that by 2038, we could support 143 million jobs around the world. That growth, of course, is going to come mainly from emerging economies as they unlock the benefits of aviation. And I always find this map quite fascinating, seeing the shift in the global center of gravity, not only of the economic center of gravity of the world, but also aviation activity in the coming decades. And it's a clear sign that more of the world will be opening up and connecting. But of course, that connectivity also comes with a downside of CO2 emissions. Acknowledging that, the industry became one of the first in the world to adopt a series of global green climate goals back in 2009. And 2 years ago, we increased the ambition of those goals to reach net zero by 2050. This was adopted across aviation. All airlines, airports, air traffic control authorities, and the makers of aircraft and engines through the Air Transport Action Group took up this challenge. And a year later, so did the world's governments in a landmark decision at ICAO. This was not a decision that we took lightly. We knew that we had improved operational efficiency significantly. The red line here on this slide shows where our emissions would be if we kept operating our 1990 fleet in 2050. And the blue dotted line shows where we would be if traffic grew with our current fleet mix. So how to get from that blue dotted line down to net zero, that's what we're all focused on now. Our own net zero pathway analysis, Waypoint 2050, shows 3 different scenarios for how to get there. And we're going to explore the main elements of that through today's sessions. There are 4 main levers of action. We're going to start with a deep dive on sustainable aviation fuels. before looking at the role of operations and infrastructure, new technology, and then a big picture wrap-up of how all these elements play together with other considerations of decarbonization as well. So that's the plan for today. Before we get started, I want to introduce the speakers we have here on stage with us and who will provide some opening insights. First of all, I'm going to ask Annie Petsonk to provide some perspective on where we are now and where we need to go. Annie is the Assistant Secretary for Aviation and International Affairs at the US Department of Transport. So Annie, please, you've got a microphone just there. A few words from you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Haldane. It's great to see folks here. I've seen some of you very recently at the CAF 3 conference, and very glad to see you again here. And for those I didn't see then, glad to see you here. The CAF 3 meeting really was a very important milestone, I think. Both Haldane and Jane have outlined the overall progress that the industry has made in terms of industry and governments setting goals. But the CAF 3 meeting, frankly, I think achieved something very important. First of all, in terms of the array of interests there, I want to particularly call out the Africa group, because the Africa group coming into the meeting, I think, was understandably very concerned. I'm not speaking for the Africa group. I want to commend the engagement. I see Francis here and others. Just want to particularly thank the thoughtfulness and engagement from the Africa group. Let's face it, aviation connectivity within Africa is not what it should be. And we need to improve that connectivity while we move aviation to a more sustainable footing. And so having a CAF outcome of the 5% target that Jane mentioned, with the full and enthusiastic and positive support of Africa, recognizing the importance for Africa of capacity building, technology transfer, and support, it's a very, very important development. And that means that those of us from industrialized countries need to look very carefully at how we are working with African countries and other countries around the world to build capacity to see where the supply chains will come from. In the United States, our Federal Aviation Administration has taken a leadership step there in terms of what we call Project 93, which is a partnership among our leading universities, partnering with universities around the world, including in Africa, to do the research to see where, not only where the supply chains are going to come from, but where the refining is going to happen. Building on that CAF 3 outcome, I personally and my leadership at the Department of Transportation have spent the time since CAF 3, which only just happened, right? I mean, some of you are still jet-lagged from it, talking to investors, saying to investors, here's this outcome. You asked for predictability. The industry has now set a target. And you know what? We're hearing from investors, we're starting to see that sustainable aviation fuel, low-carbon aviation fuel, other aviation fuels that can achieve net zero emissions, those are real things. You have set the standards for it in ICAO. Now we have a set of standards and a predictable outcome that we can begin to look at real investment. Is that investment going to happen tomorrow? We're doing our darndest to try to see that to happen. But I also want to add, yesterday I attended a transportation event here where Ali Zaidi, the Deputy Advisor to the President of the United States on climate, spoke. And Ali, who's a very smart guy, if you haven't met him, I encourage you to meet him. He said, you know, very important here is not only to take a technology approach, which our sector has been wonderful at through CAPE and fantastic analysis. Mariam has led some of this analysis, and many others here have led it, but through a systems approach. I said, Ali, what do you mean by a systems approach? He said, well, look, the fuels that you're going to need are going to take energy to produce. Where are you going to get the energy from? Are you sitting down to talk with the energy producers, including the electricity producers who are facing serious competition for green electrons, and saying, okay, what's the grid capacity? What's the generation capacity? Where do we need to plan? What about the workforce? Haldane, you have fantastic slides showing the importance of employment generated by this industry. Are we preparing the workforce of tomorrow, today? those kinds of system approaches across what traditionally have been silos, whether they are technology silos or industry silos, we need to take a much broader approach. Some of you have heard me talk about the 3 C's, cooperation, collaboration, communication. Let's take those 3 C's and employ them in a systems approach going forward so that we can meet these goals of the 5% by 2030 and the net zero by 2050. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Annie. No, and preparing the workforce is going to be incredibly important. Something we are working with Cranfield University on tomorrow afternoon. We've got an online session with them trying to figure out how do we get the research community, the academic community to start preparing not only the research that we need, but the workforce that we need into the future as well. So that's certainly keen on our minds. So thank you for that, Annie. Next up, Miriam Al-Balushi is the state lead negotiator for aviation and climate change from our hosts here at COP28, doing such a great job of hosting us as well, the United Arab Emirates. Miriam, please.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning. I think my voice is changing. I'm not jet lagged, but I'm recovering from CAF 3, which happened exactly 10 days ago here in Dubai. And we were so proud to host more than 1,000 in the room and more than 40 ministers in that event. So it was really a big event for us, and we are proudly happy that it was successful outcome of that event. And it's, I remember we keep saying that we need to send the signals to the global community that aviation is doing a lot, but aviation has been doing a lot. And as Jane said, and in the slides, that since 2009-10, there was a tremendous work done by different groups, different levels of aviation industry stakeholders. I'm delighted to represent again UAE here and show or give some insights on what we are doing. First of all, Dubai Global Framework for Aviation Fuel. We like to call it Dubai Global Framework because we deserve the title. So it's very important milestone as well for the community, aviation community, and it's just giving us some more support as a government to push whatever we started. I think I remember I announced in the last intervention, the CAF, that we are working with the SAF policy, and it's very close to be announced to the public with the details. And having also the SAF roadmap, the national roadmap in place, it's giving us a big responsibility to move forward. And I can see many familiar faces here. You remember the day when we announced the aircraft, and number of stakeholders are here from the aircraft group as well. And this is also a very important milestone for us. We are assuring as a government, including the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure and General Civil Aviation Authority, that we are supporting our stakeholders in such initiatives, and definitely we want to have it executed properly, and we want to see it moving from the paper documentation to actual physical reality. We've been also engaged in many discussion with ICAO on different topics and different groups as well. And what we have achieved in the last decade, more than 1 decade, in all the basket of measures, it's really remarkable for the sector itself. I know, as Jane said, it's not about just adapting the resolutions or the global framework. We will have lots of work. New tasks are coming to the CAPE as well, the Committee of Aviation Environment Protection. And UAE is, with all its expertise, is still committed to collaborate in all these working groups, including the Fuel Task Group. And we are proud that we were, along with Saudi Arabia, one of the states or the leaders that worked on the LCAF, low carbon aviation fuel. I know still people are confused about the lower carbon aviation fuel, but we assure you we did all the analysis, scientific work with the international organization through our expertise, scientists in the 2 organizations, Aramco and ADNOC. And if we were not confident with such move, we won't announce it or we won't support it. So LCAF is a must. We know SAF is the future. But LCAF is a transitioning fuel towards SAF, and the government is fully support on the energy transition. So by the time we reach to 2030 or 2050 with the quantity that we are aiming for, we hope that LCAF also is certified and available in the market, because this is another challenge for LCAF as well. So all these efforts is done to make sure that aviation is still alive. When I say alive, because we've been through the shutdown. Everyone remember that all the airlines were grounded, airports were closed, and we couldn't connect. And this is good that this year and last year we came together again with different ambitious goals personally. So I hope that we move gradually with the wisdom that we don't harm the two sectors, the aviation as well as energy. The good thing is happening now that we as an aviation sector, we brought the energy sector on board with us, which is, honestly, it's not the nature of ICAO or even as GCA, General Civil Aviation Authority. Today, when we chair the committees, it's a mix of aviation experts and energy as well. So we are also learning through this journey, and we are trying to make sure that whatever we are producing to the globe is helping the whole community to move forward, and we don't stop the growth and the connectivity. As you know, it's very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Mariam is such a font of knowledge about the process and the technical work, because you've been so heavily involved over the years with that as well. But it's so important for us to start branching out and talking to other sectors. That's a very important message. So, in order to give us some inspiration to get the rest of the day going, we're finally delighted to have with us Sheikh Moza bin Marwan Al Maktoum, who is not only a former commercial airline pilot and current police helicopter pilot, but has founded Shehana, the Women in Aviation Association. So thank you very much for joining us, and please give us some thoughts about the sustainable future of aviation.
Thank you. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow global citizens, it is indeed both a privilege and an honor to stand before you here today at this distinguished conference on climate change, where the urgency of global sustainability echoes within each of us. As we convene at COP28, I bring with me a perspective rooted in my experience in the aviation industry, particularly as captain pilot of the Dubai Police Air Wing and as an advocate for sustainable practices. In my journey as a pilot, I've realized the aviation industry has profound impact on the environment. It is time to recognize and amplify the contributions of women in aviation. Their leadership can drive sustainable practices within the industry, influencing decisions on fuel-efficient technologies, sustainable aviation fuel, and carbon offset programs. Diversity in the aviation workforce brings creativity and innovation, which are two crucial elements in finding sustainable solutions for environmental challenges. In parallel to the pioneering role of women in aviation, the UAE has embarked on a journey to empower women in various sectors, including aviation. In 2017, under the guidance of Her Highness Sheikha Fatima bint Mbarak, the UAE unveiled a national strategy to elevate Emirati women to leadership positions. Today, this vision materializes in Shehana, an international association dedicated to reshaping the aviation industry for women, bearing the name of the female falcon, symbolizing strength and courage. Shehana aspires to cultivate an empowering environment, inspiring Emiratis and women worldwide to explore opportunities in aviation. Through strategic alliances, Shehana aims to dismantle obstacles, establish incentives, and enhance gender balance. As a representative of Shehana, I wholeheartedly trust in the remarkable capabilities of women. particularly Emirati women, to contribute innovatively to the aviation sector. Today, we stand at crossroads of history and responsibility, where the flight paths of women in aviation intersect with the urgent need for climate sustainability. Women are not just passengers, they are navigators, and they are the innovators and the stewards of the future, where contrails of progress are intertwined with ribbons of environmental responsibility. Together, we will explore how these pioneers are not merely passengers on this journey. The urgency of sustainability in aviation goes beyond gender empowerment. It requires a collective and transformative approach. The aviation industry, long criticized for its environmental impact, is at crossroads. Incidents like the Luton runway meltdown serve as stark reminders of the environmental consequences we face. However, amidst these challenges, there are notable breakthroughs that offer hope and direction. Emirates, a prominent player in the aviation sector, achieved a historic milestone with the world's first A380 demonstration flight using 100% sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. This groundbreaking achievement can potentially cut carbon emissions by up to 85%. The SAF used closely mimics conventional jet fuel, ensuring compatibility with existing aircraft systems and paving the way for a more sustainable and eco-friendly aviation future. This demonstration is a crucial step towards standardizing and widely adopting 100% SAF. The aviation industry providing valuable insights into SAF's impact on aircraft performance. Etihad Airways is paving the way by aiming to cut aviation emissions in half in 2050, while doubling the number of flights. As we sit at this critical junction of COP28, let us recognize the urgency and the gaps in our collective efforts. I call upon each one of us to contribute to a sustainable future. Whether you're a passenger, a pilot, or an industry stakeholder, simple steps can be taken to reduce carbon footprint. Choosing more fuel-efficient airlines, supporting sustainable-focused initiatives, and advocating for the use of biofuels are tangible ways we can contribute to a greener future. Let us soar towards a sustainable tomorrow in the wings of today's commitments. The echoes of our actions, whether in the aviation industry or the broader context of climate change, will resound in the wings of generations yet to come. As we navigate the discussions at COP28, let us chart a course forward with collaborations, innovation, and shared commitment to our planet's well-being. The wings of change know no boundaries, and the skies of possibilities are open to all who dare to dream and care for our planet. Together, let us spread our wings of hope and create not just a better future for ourselves, but also for the generations yet to come. Thank you.
Sheikha, thank you very much for those words, and thank you for the work that you're doing as well in the association to help sort of spur that on. And I think if there's any indication of the role that women can play in helping to drive us forward, the four panelists that we had to start the conference off are certainly part of that, and we'll hear from more women aviation leaders throughout the day as well. So thank you all very much. If I can ask you to leave the stage, we can start with the next panel. So thank you very much.